how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. We are up in the sun porch because it is glorious outside today. No wind. I don't know what the temperature is in here, but you just said the temp outside was 47, right?
Yeah, 47 outside.
Yeah.
Probably 65 where you're sitting.
I'm guessing maybe more than that.
It might be.
I don't know.
I'm in a t-shirt out here.
Yeah, the heat encapsulates in this room. And this is the south side of the house. So when the sun is out, even if it's, 30 some degrees, even if it's freezing outside, it's still fairly warm in here. I love this room. You will notice though that the lemon cypress that are normally behind me are not in here right now. Most of them are in the greenhouse. We moved them out there. A couple of them I had to toss, sadly, because I accidentally left the floor heater on in here. Like, I don't know. It just happens sometimes. I left it on in here with the door shut, and then it was getting so hot and yeah, just hot in here, and a couple of them just didn't love that. So anyway, we're gonna regroup, get the lemon cypress happy again in the greenhouse, and then either move them back up here or maybe do something a little bit different. Be fun. First video from last week was planting spring crops in the greenhouse. I just had some random raised beds, elevated raised beds from Gardener's Supply, which are so nice to garden in. Like, I get why people want to build their... You're laughing at me like...
It just sounded a little bit like a sales pitch. I've used other raised beds, but the Gardener's Supply beds are the best.
Oh, I didn't mean for it to sound like that. No, I'm talking about the elevation. Not the brand in particular. It just happens to be the brand that I have out there. But sure. I'm talking height. You've always said, like, every year we should add one more board to the raised beds and just start building them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And honestly,
well, I really like the look of our new beds out in the... South Garden.
The raspberry beds. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think what we should do is we should screw the every year thing. Just build them up to like waist high using those boards. That'd be pretty expensive though.
Yeah. We kind of priced out. I was going to do in the cut garden, instead of a bunch of rows, I was going to maybe put in some raised beds. And then we started to think about how much the raspberry beds cost, because we had to have the lumber milled, like specific size for that, and how many we would need. And honestly, like, yes, it would be nice. It'd be a beautiful design. Like, yeah, it would look really pretty from the sky, and it would look really pretty from the ground. But it would also then not give me quite the freedom that I have now. Like, now we can get the tractor in there and we can till it up, or we can smooth it out, or we can do whatever we want. Like, there's no limitations because there's nothing in your way, and there's some amount of freedom and awesomeness about that. Anyway. Oh, we were on raised beds. Anyway, so I planted up those elevated raised beds and a pot. I don't know if I planted up anything else in there. Oh, some seeds. I planted some seeds in some trays. So we planted cabbage, 3 different varieties, Pixie, Red Acre, and Golden Acre. We planted a burgundy broccoli that I've never grown before. And I planted more lettuce seeds where I had one variety not come up earlier. Spinach and other lettuce is already up. Planted sugar snap pole peas. And then I planted beets, carrots, and radishes. The radishes are up about this far. Beautiful. Haven't seen germination yet on beets and carrots or peas, which I'm kind of like expecting that. Actually, no, I saw one pea today. It's like starting to pop through. So yeah, it was just an experiment. Just given the fact that we have this heated greenhouse out there, I wanted to put it to the test, maybe on a smaller scale. Containers make it easy to do it that way, just to see what we could get away with. And if I can, I think we're kind of coming to the realization that we can do some pretty neat stuff in there next winter and really maximize the space. Maybe get most of the tables out and do some kind of big planter sort of something in there. Shelby said, I love how on time you are every single night for me. I stay up until 10 p.m. every night to watch your videos. You give me so much inspiration for my garden, even though I'm all the way down in Australia. Australia. That makes sense. So 10 p.m. for you then is 5 a.m.? That's when you're posting it, right?
Yeah, 5 a.m. on YouTube and 6 a.m. right now on Facebook.
Gotcha. Love your work. Thank you. Well, thank you for such a sweet comment, Shelby. WK said, my husband and I really enjoy watching you every morning together with our morning coffee. I've read recently about pre-germinating seed before planting. When is this needed and what are the benefits? So I don't pre-germinate most anything. I have been doing a little bit like the pre-sprouting of the ranunculus, anemones, and dahlia tubers, just to check viability to see how they did in storage. And that might be one reason why you pre-germinate, which I don't know how a lot of people do it, but I think a lot of people do it in paper towels or something like that. And you get your seed germinated and then you plant it. But I think it's a good way to determine if seeds you have been saving for a really long time are still viable. It might be helpful with seeds that have a really hard coat. I mean, you know, oftentimes like with sweet peas, we soak them and then we nick them and then we plant them in the soil. They usually do okay, but you know, there's probably more benefits. I've never really researched that because it's not something that I do. I'll follow the instructions on the seed packet. If a seed packet told me to pre-germinate something, that's what I would do. But I've never read that on a seed packet before. Christina said, do you ever go over how to clean and sanitize your seed trays between seasons? This is my second year starting seeds, meaning I collected all of my trays last year. I feel like hydrogen peroxide needs to be involved, but I just wanted to check with the experts here before I start washing them poorly and possibly introducing bacteria to all my new babies. You know, I think, talked about it. I'm not sure if I've showed it. If you want to sanitize your seed trays, which you should be doing, it's like a 1 part bleach to 10 parts water solution that you can dunk them in. We usually give ours a good scrub after we use them. So like late spring when everything has been planted out, usually it's kind of we set them aside and they're all dirty. And then dog days of summer when it's super hot and we don't want to be doing stuff outside, then we can bring them in and scrub everything out with soap and water is all I do. Really, I don't usually use bleach. And then they just sit. They sit with nothing in them, dry until the next season. So yeah, definitely clean them out and then use a bleach solution if you are worried about it. That is what like professionals would recommend that you do. So that's not what I do, but.
You feel like if anything survives on those all year long, they like deserve to.
Yeah, you deserve to live if you can survive that long. Lori said, do you still have honeybees? No, I do not. I tried honeybees, the first year we were in this house. So at our last house, they absconded, which means they left. They just up and left. So either the queen died or something. I don't know. So same thing happened when we had them here. There was no mites. There was no, like I did a thorough check of everything. There were no dead bees. You know, sometimes you'll find a bunch of dead, I've read about it because I was trying to figure out what happened to mine. But they said to check around the hive to see if you found like a whole bunch of them dead. Because I wondered like, was a spray used that shouldn't have been used or, who knows. But I didn't find any evidence of any of that. So they just kind of took off on me. I kind of want to try it again now. I think a perfect spot would be out in the orchard. Honestly, I think that would be a great spot for them. So we'll see. We do know some people that might be able to help us. That's the thing. Next time I try it, because it's such an investment and such a bummer when they leave like that I kind of want somebody who can kind of take the whole project in hand and kind of hold my hand through the process, because I am not a researcher. I don't enjoy that part. I just want to do it. And so, like in this case, I know in order to be successful, I'm going to have a professional's help who can just teach me along the way without me having to sit and read about it, because that's just not how I learn the best. Daisy Bloom said, where did you get that obelisk that you put with the peas? So cute. I think that was a folding one. That one came from Gardener's Supply, and I'm not sure what the name of it is, but I could probably find it for you. It's called the Verona Obelisk. There are a couple of different sizes, and I want to say that I think I used the small size in that container. But they are handy because they fold flat, so they're very easy to store and they're really pretty. Crystal said, question, I got a standing self-watering container similar to the ones you have in this video. Could I plant potatoes in one, or do they need to be in the ground? I've been watching you for a couple years now and your videos have turned my black thumb green. So potatoes you typically plant 4 to 6 inches deep, so as long as your planter has a good enough, like deep enough reservoir, I'd say go for it. They don't really grow a tremendous amount deeper, I mean a little bit, but you plant, your potato this far underneath the soil surface, and then they might take up, like this much underneath. So I think you would need maybe like that much of a reservoir. I've grown potatoes in burlap bags before, like I grew them in a galvanized tub that's only this deep last year, and I had pretty good luck with that. So I would say give it a try. Kim said, will you be planting strawberries from seed? I don't think so. I was looking at the area though out there by the raspberry beds that we put in last year, thinking of how we could incorporate a smaller bed probably. It doesn't need to be the same length or the same width, but somewhere where we could have a permanent strawberry planting spot. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out there, but I've got to have a spot for strawberries for the kids. I think that would be really fun. I've got the Buried Treasure strawberries tucked everywhere around our blueberries in our raised beds up here in the raised beds behind the greenhouse. But I do want to plant another variety though that gets a little bit bigger berries. And I noticed with the Buried Treasure, they were bigger the second year. and they had a better flavor the second year, and they produced like crazy. But they do, on average, they're a little bit smaller than some of the other varieties, and I want to try to grow some other kinds. Anyway, so I'm going to be starting with plants, so not seed. Crystal said, someone told me that when you plant broccoli in your garden, you can never plant it again in that area. Is this true, or have you heard this before? I haven't heard that before. Have you heard that before?
No.
I mean, good crop rotation is a very good practice to follow. That means if you're planting tomatoes in this spot this year, maybe you can do it for a couple of years, but then rotate it after that, or rotate it every year, put your tomatoes in a different spot, because every crop is going to utilize different nutrients out of the soil. Like alliums are a big one. If you grow garlic or onions, things like that, they draw up so much nutrients from the soil. If you keep planting them in the same spot every year, and I mean, if you're amending the soil, it might be okay. But if you keep putting them in the soil every single year, you're kind of subjecting your crops to possible insect pressure that they may not deal with, if you're moving them around, and also nutrient deficiencies unless you're amending really well. So I would say, like, that's fine. You can plant it in that spot again, but maybe think about, if you've got other things planted, rotating them. It's kind of fun to rotate them anyway. Just put them in a different spot and kind of change things up a little bit, change the design. Anne said, does anyone else hear that high-pitched noise? So I think what that is the blower in our greenhouse. The blower that's blowing the plastic, like the air in between the two layers of plastic. I actually turned it off yesterday for yesterday's video. I remembered, and I will try to remember to turn that off. If we were filming in there, I don't hear it in the video, but I know that some of you guys are probably a little bit more in tune with that. Yeah, you would.
Also, I forgot to turn it off when we were filming a video that's going to go out. I'm not sure if it goes out before this one or not, but
like in the intro.
It was like the beginning of the video. It's going to be on.
So. Yeah, we'll do our best to turn that off, because I know that those kinds of things can be incredibly annoying. And I didn't realize it was going on because I just don't notice it.
We should just call it anti-ASMR.
Yeah, pretty much. Next video was dealing with fungus gnats, planting corn and beans, and jalapeno basil chicken stir fry. Kind of a little bit of everything in that video. So I have a little bit of a fungus gnat issue in our studio. It's not horrible. I think I've kept it at bay, but we're trying to eradicate it. So I started using mosquito bits, it's like a little granule kind of thing. And it's Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a natural thing. It's a natural bacteria found in soil. We use it in its liquid form to spray on supertunias and superbells in the season to keep budworms away. And so what it does is, when a caterpillar or the larva of the fungus gnat ingests it, it kills them, which is quite nice. Anyway, it's a real easy, kind of benign way to take care of something like that, because it's very targeted and it doesn't hurt. Like when you're spraying it outside in the season, it doesn't hurt anything else, which is great. So the mosquito bits you soak in your water. I'm going to be using a nylon this next time, so I don't have to skim them off the top of the water. But you have to do that treatment once a week for 3 weeks, and then you do it as you see any kind of infestation start to happen again. So I'm hoping that that's gonna work. Then Benjamin and I planted corn and beans in a raised bed, a Corten steel raised bed, like this big kind of neat one in the greenhouse that we have out there right now. And the corn is up, and beans are starting to pop through the soil right now too. It's so exciting. And Benjamin checks it every single day, and he has to point out every single one, because I think when he is so involved in planting stuff, he is so proud of it when it comes up. In fact, the days leading up to when they started to germinate, he was like wanting to dig around in there and see what was going on, and I had to tell him, like, you gotta be patient, dude. And then we made a jalapeno basil chicken stir fry with the basil that we have growing in the studio, and it was delicious. Abby said, my mother, who is a speech language pathologist, taught me that when we say when feeding babies, because it encourages the correct oral structure when eating off a spoon. Otherwise, babies may tend to leave their mouth open. She also taught me to feed from the side of the spoon to encourage the tongue to stay in the correct place instead of coming forward. That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think it was because I gave Samantha a bite of rice, and she was kind of like, And then we've taught her how to say more in sign, and she does that. Mm-hmm. Like when she wants food, she'll walk into a room and like do this to me. She kind of goes, "Mo?"
Yeah.
"Mo?" Like that.
She almost uses that for like food.
Yeah,
which
that's
is,
her.
Fine,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. So she did that, which was so awesome. I'm like, yes, this must be good if she's wanting another bite of it. So she can do more, all done, and drink, kind of. We're trying to work on that one right now.
Yeah, everything is just more right now.
A lot
Everything
more.
is this.
Katya said, Samantha Grace signing for more was so adorable and impressive. Question, since you're harvesting the basil while it's young, will it grow back leaves or will it pretty much wither away once harvested? And I also love Half-Baked Harvest recipes. She's the best. She is the best. Has the best recipes. I left some of the leaves on some of the basil, which the basil will pretty much, at this stage of its growth, if you cut it off, it's going to just kind of be done because there's nothing for it to... No leaves left to soak in any light and create energy for more growth for the plant. If you shear it off once it has more leaves underneath and you just use the top leaves, there's a chance that your plant will still do okay. And it looks like some of mine that I cut for that recipe are coming back, like they're starting to grow more. So, kind of nice. Jess said, would you ever put a microphone on Benjamin? I'd love to hear what he says when he's helping you a little better. What a great helper. I don't know that I'd ever actually put a mic on him.
It'll probably happen at some point, but I think we've been pretty careful we don't ever want our kids to feel like they have to perform or be in a video or something, like it's work or so you pretty much just let him come and go.
Yeah, and sometimes I get a reaction I like, and that's nice, and sometimes I'm like, oh, well, that didn't work out like I thought. That's okay. Jeffrey said, what problems do fungus gnats cause? Well, fungus gnats themselves, when they're adults flying around, they're just more of a pain, kind of annoying. They don't really do anything. They don't eat your plants or bite you or anything like that. It's the larvae in the soil that can do some damage. So if you've got a huge problem and a lot of fungus gnats, that means you probably got a ton of larvae in the soil, which they can damage the roots of your plants, especially in young plants, and they can really stunt their growth. Not a great thing. Kelly said, I'm so excited to watch your progress with planting in the newly heated greenhouse this year. What is the backup plan if the power goes out?
Well, I've got the electrician coming next month.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, to put in a thing, basically a generator. We'll be able to hook up a generator to the house. Now the heat source is natural gas, so that'll run even if the power's out, right?
It has to have electricity, doesn't it?
Well, no, I mean the gas is just there, but the heater would need electricity.
Yeah. So we'll have it all prepared.
Yeah.
We know so much about things. Jeanette said recipe link. Did it not get linked?
No.
It didn't?
Well, unless you send a link to either Ken or myself, we don't.
Nobody wants to root around and find the link themselves? Come on. I need to remember. Sorry about that. Valerie said, for someone who has so many projects going, what reminder app do you use? I'm looking for a good one. I don't use anything other than my phone. I will put some reminders in my phone calendar. I actually just schedule them as events, like as an actual meeting. So like this last week, I had a reminder come up that told me that I needed to pot up my ranunculus, and so I got those done. So I will set up reminders like that, or like when I need to apply soil acidifier, because it's every 60 days, so it's not a big deal to put that reminder in and have it pop up for you, because no way I'd remember that date. But everything else, I don't know. I mean, do I write things down? Sometimes. I'm all over the place in terms of notes and ideas and things like that. So yeah, I just use my phone calendar. We've tried like Asana. Was it Asana?
Yeah, we tried a couple different things. Asana was one, and you get out of it what you put into it, and if you keep forgetting to put stuff into it, it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, I can't have it be work because I'm not interested in that kind of work.
Right.
It's really nice how we have, and I've talked about how we've zoned our garden. Like Paul does an amazing job with the zone system, and there's no reminders needed. Like every day has its specific tasks, and so you just know what you would need to do that day, and there's nothing reminding you every single day. It's just like everything is so set. And I have one piece of paper that has all the zones written on it and what day it corresponds to. So if you need a quick reminder or something, you could look at that. But I don't know. I feel like everything's...
So basically, don't get an app. Get a Paul.
No, get a zoning system.
Oh.
And then somebody awesome to execute it.
and then get a Paul to do it.
Yeah. We got lucky with Paul.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Next video was beautiful front yard gardens. So we shared a bunch of your front yards, which was so inspiring. I keep saying that about every video, but they are. It is so inspiring to see what other people do, and it makes me excited. Like I think I finalized right around the Hartley what we're going to be doing for garden, and I'm almost like I'm inching my way toward the house, like kind of working on the design, coming back, through the brick patio area and then coming up to the back sun porch. shade porch. I thought I would work on it more this winter, but we've just been busy. Like we've just still been doing stuff, and like we don't take time off necessarily. You know, we having weekends off and stuff to hang out with the kids, but then you're hanging out with the kids. There's not a lot of down, quiet time to really think through ideas, and so anyway, it makes me excited because seeing some of your gorgeous ideas are just, they make me excited just to be outside and doing it. Stacy said, 2 years after retirement and a bit of traveling, I struggled with what to do with myself. I felt myself spiraling quickly. Then I found you and your videos. Oh, I became a gardener and in love with all things beautiful. I wake up every morning looking forward to two things, spending time with you and standing in my garden. That is so awesome and sweet. I can't wait each morning to wake up each and every plant in my garden, and my heart is healed. Thank you, Laura, for bringing me out of the dark and into a gorgeous light. I'll be forever grateful. Thank you to all of you who submitted videos. Yes, thank you to all of you. It's so nice to see how similar we all are when we covet the beauty. Oh, that's amazing. Jellykin said, maybe this is silly, but could you do a video where we send you our front yards that need some love and give us suggestions from you and your viewers? I don't know how that would go.
Yeah, I think that what we're doing by showing people's front yards or raised beds or ponds or whatever, I think that's about as good as we can do, because you just don't know what other people's soil is like, or how intense the sun is in that area. There's just so many factors.
Plant selection too, like if one of you guys in the south, say like zone 9, 10, 11, sent a yard, I wouldn't have the first clue as to all the things that you could grow down there, because I don't garden in an area like that. So I really am not knowledgeable in how, you know, what kind of plants you can grow there and what does really well, what thrives. I think that'd be really difficult for me to do.
Yeah, it's not just about what they can grow, but what they even have access to, or what their budget is.
Sure.
You know, it's like you might come up with a great design.
Well,
that's
I don't think the budget makes a difference, because you can do a plan over a course of lots of years.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You can do just about anything. You know, put a whip in the ground.
Yeah.
If you.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just be difficult.
I think that what we're doing is about as good as it gets, because people can actually see what other people have done and take some inspiration from it, and say like, ooh, I like this aspect or this aspect. And then you see it actually done. So that was kind of my hope with, you know, having people submit things.
It's worked for me.
Yeah.
Boy, I've seen some amazing ideas. Dwelling in My Garden said, I'm wondering why you never show any Zone 9+ gardens in these submission videos. Is it because there are not very many submissions, or is it just not appealing to your aesthetic? You know, I actually don't see the gardens until I open up my computer and we turn on the camera. So that's the first time I see any of the gardens. So it has nothing to do with my aesthetic for sure.
I've seen some of them ahead of time, and there aren't as many. I will say that. There aren't as many from the higher zones. And I think the reason for that is there probably are less people that follow along, you know, with our videos that are in those higher zones. I'm guessing they wouldn't take as much inspiration as people who are more closer, because you're zone 6.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to find more people that are interested that are in, you know, closer to that zone, like a 4 to a, you know, 7 maybe.
I never thought about that. Like you know, I wonder if the large part of you guys who watch us are closer to our zone. I don't know.
I think so. Most of the submissions seem to be, but there's been a couple. There's been that that one gal that has the YouTube channel, like Dig Plant Repeat or something. She's in California. She was 9 or 10 or something.
The most beautiful espaliered honeysuckle. I need to find somewhere to do something.
There's been a couple submissions in higher zones, but not as many.
Sure. Maybe at some point we could do a specific, like a warm zone or a, you know, a specific one.
Right.
Claire said, I'm so enjoying these videos. Would you consider talking specifically about ground cover plants in a video in shade and sun areas? I think it's a great idea. I have some lamium. Oh, I love lamium. And I learned from your videos, but would love to hear more. Anything that helps minimize the weeding jobs are welcome. That is a great idea. We should do that here soon. Because I feel like my ground cover game is weak here. I mean, we have some areas where I have lamium and I love it. I'm trying to think of any other things that we have around here. I had much more in our last garden, and it's something that I noticed in more mature gardens, and a lot of, like in my parents' garden, they've got everything's underplanted with something. There's not very much soil showing, and we have some areas like that. We've done so much ripping out in our garden just to plant new that I feel like I'm still in the baby stages with a lot of our flower beds, and oftentimes I feel like those kinds of things happen toward the end, because you get all of your big stuff planted, and then you do your shrubs, and then you do your perennials, and then you do bulbs and annuals and ground covers, because you know where everything's at and you're not going to wreck it, you know, when you're planting things. But I really want to amp that up in our own garden. So I myself like to look at a bunch of different options. Next video was new plant load at the garden center. It was the very first load of flowering plants and herbs that we got down at the garden center, so I went down and helped unload. That was so fun. Well, it kind of spanned 2 days because the truck ended up not showing the first day. It got stuck in Boise. So we got some greenhouses set up and areas set up where we wanted to put these plants because nothing can be outside yet here. I mean, next week we have a low temperature 15. Did you see that, Aaron?
I did.
Yeah. So everything has to be in under cover. Like all the flowers we put in carts up in front of the store, those go into a heated warehouse. It's lightly heated warehouse, and then everything else is in greenhouses that have little heaters running just to take the edge off. So anyway, Hayla Mom's Life said, Laura's mom, first we have to take off what we're going to take home. Dang, this family's got priorities right. Need an extra aunt or cousin? I'm volunteering. That is true. Oftentimes we kind of pull some things that we like and then put everything else out.
Yeah.
It's part of one of the advantages of, either working down there or, yeah. Alex said, when you say hardy, what exactly do you mean? Is that cold or heat? Cold. I get confused when reading the labels. I'm a zone 9A Houston, and our problem is the heat and humidity. Yeah, heat index was something new to me. I know that they include the heat, like the heat rating on some plant tags, but not on others. And it's not anything I ever honed in on because we're only ever worried here about planting things that can survive our winters. Because we were a zone 5 up until 2 years ago. And then the 10-year average of wintertime temperatures bumped us up to a 6. I still mostly plant like we're a 5 though because I don't trust it. I know that things can get colder than a zone 6 here because it has, and it did for the majority of my life. It's really hard to switch gears. But anyway, when I say hardy, I mean it's hardy and like fairly cold hardy.
What's the opposite of that on the heat side of things? Would you say like tolerant? Heat tolerant?
Yeah. Yeah, it might say heat tolerant on the tag, or it'll give a heat index rating on there. But the heat index rating really doesn't mean a lot to me because again, it's like a southern garden thing. I don't garden there, so it's not something that I deal with. Cindy said, can hellebores grow from seed? Yes, they absolutely can. In fact, mine seed themselves all over the place, and for the most part, I let them go. It does take them a few years to bloom though, so you just gotta let them go in the spot and not touch them and not mess with them, and eventually they will bloom. Brittany said, has anyone ever told you sound like the actress who played DJ Tanner on Full House?
That is not the first time that we've gotten that comment, which was funny. I pulled up some videos and listened to her voice, and there's some slight similarities.
Really?
But it's not...
Like maybe if you haven't heard her voice for a long time, you're like, oh.
Yeah, maybe.
She kind of sounds like
well, you know what I did is because I think in her comment she said that she was looking away. Is that what she said?
I had to look at the screen to see what video I was watching.
Yeah, so I turned on, whatever the actress's name is, and I closed the lid, and I was like just trying to listen to it to see if it sounded like you. I'm probably too close to you too, because I know what your voice sounds like.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Rose said, any tips when picking plants from garden centers? I've always been told to pick plants that have yet to bloom, but does it really matter? Recently, I've been interested in gardening and your videos have helped me a lot. Thank you. First thing you look for is a healthy looking plant, of course. No insects, no disease looking stuff, no weird colors on the leaves that aren't supposed to be there. Some variegation. Some plants are variegated, so they're supposed to be multicolored, but you can tell. You can tell if like a plant is really green and then it's got some really weird discoloration in some parts of it. And some people will pop the root ball out of the can. You take a look at the root ball, see if it looks good, make sure it doesn't stink or smell like it's rotting. And then as far as blooming, you just buy it whenever you want. I mean, planting things that are not in bloom is a little bit less stressful on the plant because your root system is trying to establish itself in its new home, and when it doesn't have blooms to support, it is better for the plant. But if the blooms make you happy, buy the plant when the plant is blooming. I mean, just make sure But
be prepared to lose the blooms.
Yeah, I mean, you might.
There's been so many things that we've planted in full bloom in video.
Well, it's because we plant things when it's 105 degrees outside. Right. Of course, you're going to lose blooms on that.
Yeah, and the plant, they live, but they're just like so stressed the first few days of the ground.
Do you remember I planted a hibiscus out at the end of the new hedge of limelight primes out there, and it looked like death.
Yeah,
like the same day I planted it. It was glorious in its can, and it's been sitting like in the full sun, but it's getting like really good water every day. And when you take something out of its can when it's that hot and put it in the ground, it's very stressful for them. It looked like it had completely flopped and died.
Yeah.
All the leaves were just completely limp, and it did survive. It looked like that for a few days, and I was giving it extra water. We were really attentive to it, and it's totally fine. It rebounded. But in terms of like, let's say you have a hellebore sitting there, and you have one that's not in bloom yet, and you have one that has blooms.
Well, don't you think in the early spring, those things don't really matter
Probably
as much?
not.
But it matters more as the hotter it gets.
Yeah, you're right.
If you're planting things that it's really hot, things that are in bloom will suffer.
Yeah.
Probably survive if you get lots of, shade and moisture.
Emily said, did anyone else think those 2 racks were being wheeled to Laura's truck instead of the storefront? Yeah, I wish. Funny. I did end up with some beautiful things, though. Gretchen said, Laura, weren't your feet cold? Nope, they weren't. I have hot feet. I do. I have, okay, so it's winter. I have sandals on today. That's my footwear of choice when I don't have to actually be out in the garden. But when I'm out in the garden, I'm wearing Vans with no socks, usually.
That's the weirdest thing.
Though, I was down at the garden center again this morning, and I helped unload a truck. It was 23 when we started working out there, and I had boots on. And I had the toe warmers in my boots. And
how did those fit inside your...
You just, they stick to the bottom of your socks. They're like this big.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're like little patches that you stick to the bottom of your socks.
Yeah.
And my feet work just fine.
Toasty.
Yeah, well, they weren't even extra toasty. They were just perfect. Yeah. Perfectly fine. Yeah, I don't get cold feet very often. When I do, it's miserable. For those of you guys who deal with circulation issues, or those of you who are cold all the time, I feel for you. Because when I feel like that, it's misery.
Yeah.
When you feel like you cannot warm up, it's kind of painful.
It's like having insomnia. It's you don't think about it all that much, but then when you have insomnia, it ruins your life.
It does. It's the worst. Okay. And I think this is the last video from this week, was shopping for trees on our date day. So Erin and I, when we go away for the day, it's usually just for a few hours. We just like to get out of the house every once in a while together, just the 2 of us. The kids were here with Erin's sister, Alyssa. And we went over to Jaker, which is a re-wholesaler, tree re-wholesaler.
I don't know what that means, re-wholesaler. Is
well,
that
so
retail
they get their trees.
wholesaler?
They get their trees from a wholesaler, and then they are kind of another. They re-wholesale the trees to landscapers and such.
Sure.
I think they deal mostly with landscapers, is what I'm kind of guessing. I'm not sure on that.
That makes sense. They're wholesaling again.
Right.
They're just another middleman, but it makes sense because they're getting the product closer to the landscapers.
And they get big stuff.
And the landscapers can hand pick it.
Yeah.
Whereas if they were going directly to wholesalers, it'd be hundreds of miles away.
Yeah.
The landscapers wouldn't be able to hand pick the things they want.
Right.
So it does make sense to add one more middleman.
And they have, the reason why we went there, because, I always check with my parents first to see if they can order things in for us. And getting a hold of bigger stuff is hard down at the garden center. And we wanted to, particularly with evergreen, start with a little bit larger size trees because, it's just worth paying the extra money for those for the most part because they grow so slow. Anyway, so we ended up there. We picked out some things, they're going to be delivered next week. I wonder if you should talk to Kayla, though, and ask her if we can wait till after the 16 degree drop.
She had mentioned that, actually.
Okay,
so,
I don't want them to dig them until after that.
Yeah.
That's too touchy. Anyway, and then we went to Franz Whitty, another garden center, and picked up some really pretty things, and then we just took the long way home. We had a drink and just took the long way home. It was really nice. Mrs. McBride said, who else almost choked on their coffee and started laughing when Erin said, ooh, that's so pretty, mocking my mom and I.
Well, I'm just so used to your mom doing that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to react on camera, so.
You guys are both equally good at enabling, though.
Oh, well, good.
I will say that. Stephanie said, this might be a dumb question, but when you talk about the height and width of a tree that that grows 50 feet high and 30 feet wide, does that tree stop growing at that height and width, and that's how the grower knows the size? Or is that an estimate of how big the tree will get? Because I assume the tree will continue to grow past the size indicated on the tag. I don't quite understand how that works. I think it will probably cap out at around the size that it says on a tag. I think situations will vary greatly depending on where you live. Like some tree tags will say this tree grows 40 to 50 feet high, but 70 feet high if the conditions are ideal. Wasn't that what one of the birch trees says, or one of the trees we looked at?
Yeah.
Said if conditions are ideal, it would be significantly bigger. So I think that goes for almost everything that you plant in the garden. If conditions are ideal, it's going to get to its full size, maybe a little bit bigger. But I think typically it's an estimation.
I've noticed that a lot of tags from, for us being in Oregon, the other side of Oregon that gets a lot more cloud cover, it feels like if it survives here and gets full sun, which, it's out in the full sun, everything's full sun here practically, they seem to get bigger than what the tag says coming from the coast.
Well, I know even blackleaf elderberries on Proven Winners website. Hold on, I'm going to look it up because ours grow differently. On Proven Winners website, it says they grow 8 feet tall by 8 feet wide. That's like half the size that they grow here. We can cut ours back down to like knee height, and it will get like 12 feet at least by 12 feet wide. Maybe bigger, 15 by 15. Right. I mean, just enormous plants. They really thrive and do well here. You see them in a lot of people's landscapes here.
I'm really hoping the Proven Winners tag is wrong on the North Pole arborvitaes because it says 10 to 15 feet, and I really want them to hit the 15 feet, but I'm kind of hoping that it's maybe wrong, and it might, since they're full sun, they might actually get up to like 20. So.
I think 15 is the high end.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
I could be wrong.
15 feet is pretty high though. They just need to bush out.
And they will.
As long as they bush out, I'll be
They've
happy.
grown so beautifully, really, for us. Cynthia said, what are your thoughts on bare root trees versus buying them at the stage you're looking at in this video? I honestly don't have that much experience with bare root trees. We never carried them down at the garden center. I think they're just kind of hard to retail, honestly. So we always did potted things or B&B, like what we're buying here at Jaker. We bought, I think they're all B&B. They're all wrapped in, twine or wire cages or whatever. So they do have soil around them. I think you can typically get way bigger varieties. That's an advantage of getting something potted or B&B as opposed to
typically bare root are really small, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get...
Well, not technically super small. I've seen larger ones. They're not like whips.
Like how tall do you think is the biggest one you've seen?
I don't know. You always make me put it like... he always makes me qualify everything I say.
Well, you say it because I'm trying to get a visual of what you're talking about. But if you say, I've seen them huge.
Like your height.
Like 6 feet tall.
That's not super small.
No, it's not. Really? Do they survive being 6 feet tall?
I don't know. Maybe I
don't think
didn't see that.
I don't think you've seen a bare root that's 6 feet tall.
Maybe I did, and you just don't know about it.
Typically, they're pretty small being bare root, I think.
You don't know nothing about bare root.
Well, I know a little bit about things.
Have you ever bought bare root trees? Have you ever seen bare root trees?
No, but we've planted up bare root shrubs.
Yeah, but shrubs are different than trees.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
We don't know anything about bare root plants.
Well, here's what I do know though, is like if you're buying bare root online, you have access to like anything.
But it's all small.
It's all small,
pretty much.
But when it's bare root, online. It's small enough that like anybody can ship you anything because it can be packaged easily.
I swear though, I saw some bare root things at the place in Fruitland.
That were tall?
Yeah, that were a little taller.
How do they
They were all like in sawdust. Like they were all lined up like trunk by trunk, and then they had them all hilled up with like kind of like it looked like wood chips or sawdust kind of a look around them, and they looked wet, like they had been all hosed down.
Interesting.
Well, I don't know what I saw, but I think those were bare root, and they were on racks that were a little taller. Lisa said, Laura, you know exactly what most, if not all those deciduous trees look like when they are leafed out. Are landscapers or developers going to wait for leaves to buy all those trees? You may end up having to visit all the multi-trunk birch in other people's yards over in fast-growing Boise. Lisa, don't you worry about that. We're going to be doing a Jaker tree unloading video here at the house, probably this next week, maybe the week after. There might be a couple multi-trunk trees in that load. Ruth said, starting young with those dad jokes, huh, Aaron? I think that's in reference to the junkus grass.
I'm but an old married man.
Sometimes I don't know how to react to the things that you say.
Yeah, it is a thing. Like, dad jokes really are a thing. I don't know why. They're just puns. They're stupid puns. And you see it and you think,
I gotta say this.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. And you say it.
You made some joke about the bistro set we saw, too, and how my mom needed it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For the Hartley.
For the Hartley?
For her Hartley.
Oh, she doesn't have a Hartley.
Oh, I guess that's your mom's line. She kept saying everything was for the Hartley.
Oh. Chris said, love to see your shopping sprees. Do you ever go to someplace like Best Buy or a great camera shop on date day so Aaron can go shopping? Aaron wanted probably to go tree shopping more than I did.
Yeah, I probably
Just so
did.
you guys know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not dragging him to garden centers. I promise you that. You don't want to go to Best Buy anymore. He used to like that.
My tastes are more like specialized now. Like the things that I want, I know when the release date is for them, you know? And so like I usually have to pre-order something and it's easier because we're an hour away from Boise and you can never line up, you know, going to Best Buy on the same day that something is released or whatever. So I just order most of the things that I want online. Which is kind of sad because I used to enjoy going to play. Like I got excited about going to Best Buy.
Yeah, you did. I remember those days.
And I feel like the real life shopping experience is different than it used to be for electronics. It's just like things are harder to get a hold of in store, and it's easier to pre-order online.
I think that Aaron's, could be wrong, but I think your ideal date day would be to go take in some open houses.
Yeah,
I think you would really like
that.
to find some real estate, like open houses.
Like nice houses. Like houses that we can't afford.
Yeah.
That's what I would want.
And just cruise through them and see,
It doesn't
ideas.
get me down at all. To go, like, walking through, like, a $5 million house, I would love it.
I think I would, too.
That wouldn't get me, because I know that we'll never live in a $5 million house, right? But, like...
But it'd be fun to see some of the ideas. You can implement a couple of the ideas, you know?
That's what I think about our videos. Like, when you plant... I remember you planted, like, 17... hostas or heucheras or whatever, and you said like, and if you don't like the way it looks, I just saved you a bunch of money. But I feel like that's the way it is. Like if you don't like something, you can let somebody else spend the money on something and be like, oh, that's terrible, I would never do that. But they spent the money and you can see what it looks like and kind of cross it off the list.
Yeah. And you can adapt things to your own space too. You see how it's working for them and think, oh, I could put that, I don't know,
I could do that way cheaper or whatever.
The problem is, and we always look on like Zillow and stuff to see if we can find open houses, there's not usually much going on the days that we can get out. Because when we get out for date days, it's usually a spontaneous thing. It's not a planned thing. It's like, oh, I think we can squeeze it in today. You know, the weather's bad or whatever. Mamie said, we are planting 25 evergreens as a fence. Should we use biotone or hollytone? I get so confused about fertilizer for evergreens. Okay, so here's the deal on the evergreens. It depends on what kind you're planting. If you're planting arborvitaes, you would want to use plantone or biotone, but not hollytone. There's also evergreen tone, which is essentially hollytone.
Yeah.
So it depends. If you're using or planting rather any other kind of evergreen though, other than boxwood or arborvitaes. So boxwood, arborvitaes, plantone or biotone. All other evergreens you could use evergreen tone, hollytone, or biotone.
So there you go.
So there you go. Yeah. C. McAfee Art said that drone footage really gave me perspective of how huge that facility is. Do you know how many acres they have at Jakers? I wondered the same thing.
I would guess, but looking at that, I would guess maybe like 80 acres.
It's a lot.
Maybe more, maybe 100.
You know, it's funny though, because I was watching the drone footage too, and I thought, dang, that looks huge. When we were walking it, I think I was so excited that it didn't feel...
Well, that whole middle section was open because they normally have their perennials and shrubs there, which obviously they don't sell in February. But like, I guess they fill that all up.
Yeah,
It'd be really interesting. We should go back there during the season. I'd love to see what it looks like.
Yeah, that would be fun. Put the drone up again.
Yeah.
Get a different look.
I bet the color is amazing.
I bet it is. Leanne said, Laura, I'm wondering what is up with that channel creating content off of you and Aaron, talking about your income, lifestyle, etc. I can't wait to see those trees grow up. Thanks for always providing great inspiration and for the positivity you both show. Yeah, there's few channels doing that, right?
Yeah, we both just laugh at it when we watch because
it's
the information
so wrong.
The information is so inaccurate about like they'll give a backstory like on how we met or you know what we used to do prior to making videos, and it's always
wrong.
It's just so wrong. What was it? The one that I saw last time was like Laura and her husband Adam have, you know.
and all of you guys who watch our videos, you're like, well, I'm going to click out of this one.
Right.
I don't know what they're talking about.
You know, it's fine. It's just people that are trying to, you know, get people to click on it.
People watch it though.
Yeah, they do.
I'm like,
well, I watch it because I'm interested
to see how wrong they got things. Yeah. Have they gotten any facts right?
Well, I'm sure some of the facts are...
Like we live in Oregon.
It's like you throw enough darts and eventually you'll, you know, get something correct.
Yeah.
But I don't remember.
Mercy.
Most of it was pretty inaccurate.
Anyway, yeah, it's just kind of a weird thing. I didn't even know what was going on or how many of them were out there, how many videos like that were out there, but they do that for like a lot of channels, right?
Yeah, it's not like they're picking our channel.
No, they just kind of, that's their channel. It's just trying to...
A lot of those channels, they'll upload like 10 videos a day, and they'll just grab a bunch of YouTubers and they're
speculate wildly.
Yeah,
on their
speculate.
life.
They're probably just grabbing people with maybe like over 1 million subscribers, like mostly, and hoping that, you know, the people with bigger audiences will click on it.
And that's it, you guys, for this last week. It's been a really fun week, and we're looking forward to another really great week. Almost all of our snow is gone, just in some shady areas. So like on the very far end of the south garden, right up next to our neighbor's fence where those big trees, beautiful trees are, the snow kind of stays there and ice for a long time. So we made sure to plant really tough things over there because there's still a layer, but everything else is like coming out from under it, and it's starting to make us feel like, oh, there are things underneath that snow. Because again, you know, a lot of our gardens are babies, and so you see like a flat piece of ground with snow on it, and you can't even see any of the perennials or anything else that we put in the ground. It's really nice to see it again, and I'm just really looking forward to starting in with some of these planting projects. And I think we're meeting with Benny, you know, Benny who has done our brick sidewalks and things for us, and he does a lot of our irrigation work. He's coming tomorrow, and we're going to talk floor in the Hartley. So hopefully soon, because that step can be done at any point. And I think he gets his crew back March, like beginning of March. So, and I think we're kind of first on the list because it was something we just didn't get done in the fall. Anyway, so hopefully we will have that finished up, and then we can like put things in there a little bit more freely. Anyway, lots of fun stuff. I hope you guys are having a really great day. Hope you have a great week, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.